prophecies foretold of your arrival.
Hey there YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Sun's out, guns out on this beautiful and unseasonably warm winter day. I am here seated once again on the bench of truth at the picnic table of wisdom. I have in front of me the pizza box of enlightenment, covered at the moment by the Burger King bag of revelation. At this point, we're just making the channel with trash. I did the newspaper torch video. That was just made out of trash. All our production values are just trash. They're just made out of stuff we dug out of a dumpster at this point. I don't know if I should be proud of that because we're like recycling, upcycling, or if I should just be ashamed. Just deeply ashamed. You know what? There's room for two emotions. I can feel ambivalence. That's fine. Okay, welcome back to the channel, the trash channel. I'd like to talk a little bit today about some of the well-known gun companies out there and their customer service that they provide, their customer service practices. Because when you buy a firearm, especially a new one or something that's still in current production or offered by a company that still exists, you know, I mean, if you buy a, I don't know, if you buy a Broomhandle Mauser and they haven't been made in 100 years, well, you're kind of on your own when it comes to service. You know, the company that made it is not going to service it. But if we're talking about a relatively recent production firearm, well, the company that made it might still offer service for it, offer parts, etc. And that's an important part of the buying decision. If I'm buying a firearm, especially a new one, I want to know that it's backed up by a reputable company that's going to support that product, so I can get parts for it, I can get service for it, I can get whatever I need to keep it going. If it's defective, is the company going to repair it? Are they going to make it right? Or are they just going to say, well, you're on your own, we don't care? That to me is important. It's important to a lot of people. So I've made a list of some of the companies in the market now, and I'm going to tell you my opinion of their level of customer service. These are my opinions based on my own experience and in hearing from other people in gun shops, people in online forums that I know, people at ranges and so on. I'll just tell you the unvarnished truth. And there is a category at the end that's a big question mark because I don't know much about those companies, and I'd really like to hear from all of you in the comments if you've had experience with them. But let's start with one of the most popular in the world. We'll start with Glock. I'm giving them a C for customer service. I have not had to use their customer service very much. I can tell you that if you go to an event where there are Glock representatives, they will overhaul and rebuild your Glock pistol. They'll pull out any worn parts, any out-of-date parts, and replace them immediately right there, free of charge. They're pretty awesome. That's way more than a C. That's terrific. But if you contact the company directly and you need parts or service, I have found that they're reasonably professional, but they're a little bit cold, and their attitude is sort of, well, we built a perfect pistol, so it doesn't need service. And if you say it does, you're probably wrong. That's not really all that helpful. So I'm giving them a C. For the most part, their products don't need service. Their products are really good. I like Glock pistols. I recommend Glock pistols, but they offer adequate customer service, and that's about all. I also give them some extra points because they make their OEM parts very available and they're inexpensive. So even if you can't get Glock to work on your pistol, well, it's simple to work on them, and you can order parts from just about anywhere, and they're very inexpensive, and they drop in very easily. In the unlikely event that you have trouble with a Glock pistol, it's usually pretty easy to correct. So Glock is not terrific. They're not the gold standard in terms of customer service, but they're fine. Smith & Wesson, unfortunately I have to give them a D, and I have really liked Smith & Wesson in the past, but recently their quality has slipped and their customer service has slipped as they have transitioned from one headquarters to another. They moved from one state to another, and I hope that grade will be much, much higher in the future, but right now I'd have to give them a D. Just a few years ago, I probably would have given them a B or maybe an A, but lately they're not so great. Kimber, they get a D. I have made several Kimber videos recently. I've reviewed a couple of Kimber pistols, and I have so far been very pleased with them. This is complicated, so let me try to make it less complicated. Back in the day, it seems like Kimber back 30 years ago, they made a really good product. And to a great extent, in some cases, they still do make pretty good products. But some of their stuff, especially their newer models, are not that good. A lot of their quality control is not that great. And when they do make a mistake, they don't seem to be eager to correct it. They don't seem to be eager to make their customers happy. And remember, they're a company that for the most part makes pretty expensive products. You can go buy a Rock Island or a Teezus 1911 for 400 bucks, and a Kimber is, what, 3 times that, 2 or 3 times that, depending on which model you get. So when you're paying that kind of money, you should expect a good product and good service. And, oh, I didn't put Rock Island on the list. I would give Rock Island a B for the record. I have had to use their customer service before. They were quick, they were professional, they were great. So Rock Island's a B. But back to Kimber. Kimber, unfortunately, does not usually take very good care of its customers, and I'm hoping that will change. They've recently moved to a different state. They're down in Alabama now, and maybe they're getting better. I don't know. But in talking to people at gun shops, I talked to somebody recently at a local gun shop who said that Kimber treated him and his customer extremely well in customer service, gave him an A, terrific. But at a different gun shop where they sell a lot more firearms and they sell a lot of Kimbers, the guys behind the counter there were very clear. Their experience with Kimber over many years has been that Kimber gives pretty poor service, and that Kimber is always looking for an excuse not to take responsibility and not to fix your firearm. What they said, among other things, was Kimber will tell you, oh, if your gun doesn't work, it needs a break-in period. Shoot it a bunch at your expense. Ammo's expensive. Shoot it a bunch before you send it back to us. Oh, how much? Well, how much have you shot it? We put 200 rounds through it. Well, then it needs 300. If you tell them you shot it 300 times, they'll tell you it needs 400. If you call them back on the same gun and say, oh, well, now we shot it 400. Well, now it needs 500. This is what I'm hearing from guys in gun shops. Like, I haven't had this experience with Kimber, but I've heard this of some companies, and Kimber's one of them. So be wary about Kimber. I'm going to be blunt. I would probably not buy a brand new Kimber right now, unless it were incredibly cheap. I just don't feel great about Kimber, guys. When their products work, they make really nice products. They make pistols that are pretty, they work well, they shoot well when they work. But too frequently, they have poor quality control and poor customer service. Ruger, I'm giving Ruger a B+. I hate to give them a B+ instead of an A, but they will not offer parts or service on a lot of their older guns anymore, and I think that's a shame. And like the ones that they made in the 50s, okay, I wouldn't be happy if they stopped supporting those, but I get it. Guns you made 40, 50, 70 years ago, maybe you can't support them anymore, but they've stopped supporting guns that they were even making just about 20 years ago. They've decided, well, you're on your own, we're not going to service them anymore. And I think that's pretty lousy. But generally, when I have to contact Ruger, they are quick, they are friendly, they do a great job servicing firearms. I wish I could give them an A. I just have to ding them on the fact that they don't support us on some of those older models anymore. Car Auto Ordnance, they do the same thing that Kimber does. They're very reluctant to take responsibility. They tell you, you need to shoot the gun more before you send it back. Even if a gun won't fire, they tell you it needs a break-in period. How do you break it in if it won't fire? They'll tell you need to shoot 500 or 1,000 rounds or whatever is their made-up arbitrary number. And they're not going to service the gun until you do, even for guns that won't fire. Again, this is what I hear at gun shops. The one time I had to use Car's customer service, they were terrific. It was awesome. That was about 20 years ago. But from what I understand, they've gone downhill since then. So Car, you used to make great products. I think you still can. And I hope you improve your customer service, because I'd love to be able to recommend your products again. Walther, I'm giving them a B. I wouldn't know much about Walther or their customer service, except that they're kind of local to me. Their factory and their U.S. import office is near where I live. And so some of the gun shops around here have close ties to them. And in the event that Walthers need any service or whatever, at least the local shops can get it quickly and easily. It's no problem. And so while I don't have any firsthand experience dealing with their customer service, my overall impression is that they probably have earned a B. And if I got more information, maybe I would have to change that. But right now I'm saying it's a B. Sig, I'm giving Sig a C+. Sig has earned a reputation for using their customers as kind of their alpha testers. They release products that aren't really ready for the market and that haven't been thoroughly debugged. And that's not great. That's not a great practice. I have not often heard of, some kid is screaming in the background. I have not often heard of people needing service on a SIG, but it certainly does happen. It happens more often than it should. They had all those P320 pistols that had to be overhauled because they weren't drop safe. Generally, they're pretty good about fixing things when they need fixing, but we shouldn't have to use their customer service as much as we do. Sig is a company that's been around a long time. They know what they're doing. They charge a premium price for their products. They make what is supposedly a good product. There's really no excuse for how much service their firearms have needed. Okay. KelTec. This may surprise some of you. I'm giving KelTec a B+. I have had, KelTec is inconsistent in terms of quality control, as many of you know. I've had to send guns back to KelTec, and I've known lots of people who have. But generally, they're very good about repairing things. They do it quickly, they do it in a friendly way. I would give them a B+, at least on customer service. If you bought a KelTec and you were planning to carry it in defense of your life, I would test it thoroughly. If you've shot it a lot and it works well, you've got one of the good ones, you can trust it. But I would shoot it a lot before I trusted it. Mossberg. Everything I've heard from people who've used their customer service is that they have earned an A, they deserve an A. And I think one time that I ever had to use their customer service, yeah, they were great. High Point, I would give them an A-. High Point is a little bit harder to get on the phone. It's a little bit harder to get them to respond than some other companies. But when they do, their customer service is fantastic. Little bit hard to contact them, but when you do, they're great. They're very quick to respond, and this is what I've heard from other people as well. I've had to use their customer service a couple times, and I've known other people who have, and they're quite good. Taurus or Rossi. Those of you who watch the channel for a while may know that I am not a fan of Taurus, and Rossi is owned by Taurus. Some of the older Rossi guns before Taurus acquired them, I still like those okay. But of course, if you need service on them, you're going to Taurus for it, and I don't like Taurus. I've had absolutely terrible, abysmal customer service experiences with Taurus. Do not recommend them. I've heard from other people that they've had great experiences, but that has not been my experience, and so I have to give them an F. Springfield Armory, giving them a B+. Their customer service, for the most part, has been absolutely an A, an A+. Their customer service has been absolutely wonderful in almost every way, except that they will not make parts available. That's one of the things that Glock gets right. They make parts available to those of us who need them, but Springfield will not sell those. They won't let those out of the plant. If you'd like to keep some spare parts on hand, or if you'd like to replace a part yourself, you're just out of luck. They won't provide them. Of course, if you have one of their 1911s, everybody makes 1911 parts. You can get springs, you can get ejectors, whatever you need for a 1911, but something like an XD, you're just out of luck. And of course, some of these parts break occasionally. If you'd like to replace them before they break, Springfield won't replace them. They'll say, hey, when it breaks, go ahead and send it back to us. Well, when it breaks, it's too late, isn't it? And so I can only give them a B+ and not an A, because they won't make those parts available. Century Arms, I'm giving them a C-. I've had to contact Century once or twice over the years. They were not very friendly. From what I've heard from other people, they're willing reluctantly to correct their mistakes, but they're not really very eager. They don't seem to care about making customers happy or providing us with value. Once they've got your money, they don't seem to care about you very much, so I can't rate them higher than a C-. Maybe if I got more experience with them or heard from more people, I could change that grade up or down, but based on what I know about them, I'm gonna have to give them a C-. Okay, and our last category includes Beretta, CZ, Colt, Winchester, Remington, Heritage, Savage, FN, H&K. I have not had enough experience with these companies and their customer service to have a strong opinion. Berettas and CZs don't seem to need service very often. Winchester, their American plant doesn't exist anymore. Winchesters are all made overseas now. They're not even a big part of the market anymore. Remington, I had an opinion about the old Remington's customer service, but now Remington has been bought up by somebody else. And so they're under new management, and I know nothing about their new customer service. I've dealt with Savage customer service only a little bit. They were kind of okay, but not great. H&K legendarily hates their customers and has terrible customer service. You know, I probably should have assigned them a grade, except that people need their customer service so infrequently that it's hard to assign them a grade, because H&Ks tend to work. The big problem is spare parts. If you need parts for an H&K, the company has in the past not been very responsive to that, and I don't know if they're more responsive now. And that even is for their law enforcement customers. I mean, they don't care. If you bought their product, I think, as near as I can tell, they hate you. They don't want you to be happy. But they make such a good product that you rarely need any service. FN, I've not had experience with their customer service. Heritage is, from what I understand, owned by Taurus now, so I could have lumped them in with Taurus, except that they seem to be a separate enough division. Maybe their customer service is better or different. They were operating out of the US. I don't know how much of the management was actually replaced when Taurus took over, because they're still operating out of the same place. Heritage might actually be pretty good. Based on the little bit I've heard from people who needed their customer service, they seem to be at least okay, but I don't have enough information to assign them a grade. So guys, that's my list. Bear that in mind if you're, when you're shopping, when you're out there making your buying decisions. Remember that you're not just buying a firearm, you're buying the customer service or lack thereof that goes with it. And for the most part, I wouldn't tell you to avoid any of these brands except Taurus. I'll tell you to avoid them. But H&K, or actually these days I'd probably avoid Car as well. But H&K, they make great products. If you like their products and you're willing to pay the price, yeah, you probably won't need customer service. They make a really good product. Kimber, some of their products, especially the ones they've been making for a while, are really good. And if you get one of the good ones, it'll be good basically forever. If you get a 1911 from them and you have small parts breakage or whatever, even if their customer service is terrible, there are lots of places you can get parts. There are lots of people who can service a 1911. It's really not that big a deal. So, I'm not saying you should avoid those brands necessarily, but those are not brands that I would necessarily buy with a preference or at the top of my list. But I do like Glock. I do like Ruger. There are a bunch of these companies. Mossberg, I'll buy basically anything from Mossberg. I think they're terrific. And some of these like Beretta I like too, and CZ, I don't know anything about their customer service. They don't seem to have a lot of problems, so people don't use their customer service a lot, as near as I can tell. Anyway, I would love to hear what you guys think. Make sure you comment. Tell me about your experiences with these companies or any that I might have missed. Guys, until next time, keep your powder dry. Hey YouTube, this is Boom Guy reminding you to reduce, reuse, recycle, and reload.